I wanted to talk some of the top defensive tackles for the upcoming 2024 NFL draft, guys that are going to be eligible. So, we've talked a lot of draft eligible players, some of the top guys so far. So, we'll start with D tackles. Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State. Michael Hall Jr., really talented guy, super good athlete, moves very well for a guy that big. And Michael Hall is a guy that his playing time kind of decreased this year as Ohio State as the season went along. But if you really watch, this guy does flash some high-end ability. He is a guy who he knows how to. How should I'm trying to think of the best way to describe Michael. The guy that knows how to, when he stunts on his pass, like they use him, he stunts a lot when he pass rushes. He knows how to get past offensive linemen. He uses a lot of different things. He does use his hands pretty well. He's strong in the upper body. That helps him a lot to get past offensive linemen. So, yeah, Michael Hall, a really good player, and he really flashed in a couple games. Had a really nice game against Michigan State in limited snaps. Played well against Notre Dame. I thought he played pretty well against Georgia. He was in a tough position going against some of the strong interior offensive linemen that Georgia have in Van Pran, Rutledge, some of those, and Truss. So. But yeah, Michael Hall, this is a guy that, I think he has the ability to really take over a game, as you really saw in the Notre Dame game. A talented player, big time recruit, really got to show a lot of what he could do this year. It was only played in 16 games so far in his short Ohio State career. But yeah, Michael Hall, he's a guy that's number 2 consensus defensive tackle. So the big question mark is he going to hold that position? I think that a lot of that position is banking on the potential being reached. I think there's a little more room to grow for Michael Hall. I think this is a season where he can kind of put all things together, kind of refine some of his technique, continue to get stronger, work at work at playing at a high level consistently. But yeah, it's all there for Michael Hall to really have a lot of success. We'll see how he does this year in 2024. But yeah, Notre Dame game, Michigan State game, there certainly was flashes of excellence. I think he was working through a little bit of an injury this year. Can we just see more consistency? Can we see him even take another step in his game? Jerzon Newton from Illinois. I really like Jerzon Newton's game. This guy, 6'2", 295. Really like the versatility this guy has. You see him lined up. I see him a lot in the 0 tech, 3 tech, 4-eye, even 5 techniques. Guy that really can rush the passer, reads plays super quickly. He's always, what I love about Newton, he watches plays the whole time, and he can see them develop quickly. So yeah, this is a guy that he is just always, with his play recognition, he's always able to get around the ball. And this guy that when he does rush the passer, if he does get off free on a stunt or a blitz, you can really see him close on the quarterback in a hurry. So that's what's super impressive about Jerzon Newton's game. And I love his hand uses. He's so strong. He gets off of blocks right when he needs to a lot of times. So that's what you love about his game. Strong at the point of attack, does not get pushed back, holds ground against double teams. So, and that's just, plays at a high level against the run and the pass. So yeah, I really like Jerzon Newton. He's got an effective rip move, swim move. So yeah, it's all there for Jerzon Newton to potentially be the number 1 defensive tackle next year. Right now, he's a consensus number 3 tackle, but a really good player nonetheless. And yeah, I think his game will translate well to the NFL. I think he's already has a skill set that will make him a high level player in the National Football League. But a guy that's played a lot of football actually thus far in his career at Illinois, enters his senior year in this year, and played in 2020. And played in 2021, 2022. So yeah, this guy that's got experience, and you feel like he is a little bit more polished. Maybe wonder how much more room there is to grow, because you see kind of everything he seems like he is a mature, developed player at this point, but you feel like there is a little more room to grow, and if he makes that improvement, I think that is what could, give him a strong case for the number one defensive tackle for next year's draft. Yeah, next guy, Chris Jenkins, Michigan. Chris Jenkins, as a Michigan fan, I kind of got a good grasp of Chris Jenkins' skill set, but when you watch his tape, you really get an appreciation for how good this guy was this year. Chris Jenkins, they say defensive tackles are some of the most unselfish players on the field. That is the case, really, when you watch Chris Jenkins, because it's like there was times, in the Ohio State, Penn State game where he's just like holding his ground against double teams, putting himself in awkward body positions, holding his leg, holding strong at the point of the attack, using leverage, so that he could open up a lane for a linebacker or another defensive lineman to come and fill. So yeah, Chris Jenkins, very good game against Ohio State. That was maybe his best game this past season, and played well. Those are the two games I watched some tape on, Ohio State and Penn State. You watch those games, you really get an appreciation for the high-level talent that Chris Jenkins has. And this is a guy who he really still has not played a lot of snaps in Michigan. You get a feel that this year could be a huge year for Chris Jenkins, and he's probably going to get the most snaps he's had throughout his career at Michigan. I know it was became the full-time starter this past season in 2022, but is really going to get a chance to get a full workload of snaps and really just flash all the ability this guy has. Really strong, really good overall play strength. You can see him. He's always in a position where he can see where the play is going. Strong against the run, can make physical tacklers, good wrap-up tackler. So, yeah, he's going to be a key focal point on the Michigan defensive line. Last year they had Mozzie Smith. Mozzie Smith kind of got a lot of the attention. I think this year, that's why Chris Jenkins chose to come back. He actually was draft eligible. He actually was thinking about declaring for this past year's, the 2023 NFL draft, but chose to come back, and I think that was a good choice because he's going to be the man on the Michigan defensive line. If he has a monster stat line, and then scouts can really get another year of film, another full year starting of film of how disruptive he can be in the middle of that Michigan defense. So I think that is, with all that being said, I think that is key ingredients for Chris Jenkins to fully display for NFL scouts what he can do and become a high pick. And he's a guy that's rising up the consensus draft boards, and rightfully so, because the traits are all there. I think it's just to me, Chris Jenkins is a guy is a typical guy that's lower on the consensus at this time, just because it's a small sample size. But the ability and opportunity that he's going to have this season is a perfect one for him to work his way into a first-round pick. It kind of reminds me of actually with Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson was just kind of like Chris Jenkins, had 1 year where it was, he wasn't really the main guy. If you remember, Hutchinson didn't really play, as injured in 2020, but if you go back to 2019, he wasn't really the main guy as the edge rusher for Michigan. They had Kwity Paye was the main guy, but Hutchinson still played pretty well in 2019. Last year, Mozzie Smith, kind of the main guy in the inside. Chris Jenkins was kind of not really forgotten about, but didn't get as much credit as Mozzie Smith did. Now with Mozzie Smith gone, Chris Jenkins, the man inside, all the snaps he's going to get and more attention. So I think with all that being said, I think that, Chris Jenkins, I think he's got a chance to really make some eye-popping numbers in a heavy snap load. So, I just wanted to touch on Chris Jenkins, too. We'll go to the next guy, Tyler Davis, defensive tackle for Clemson. And what stands out about Tyler Davis, this guy gets off the ball very quickly. That was something that really jumped out to me about Tyler Davis. Now, he doesn't really get off. He cannot really shed blocks as quickly and as good a timing as Chris Jenkins, Michael Hall, Newton. That's one thing I did not like about Tyler Davis's game, but he is strong at the point of attack, and his quickness off the the ball, he can disrupt plays in the backfield, but there is too many times where it's good quickness off the ball, pushes his guy back, gets in the backfield, but the running back just kind of makes a cut and goes the other way and still gets yardage because Davis does not really pose that threat to get off the block quickly. So that's something I noticed about Davis's game. But there's a lot of things to like about Tyler Davis's game. I mean, he is a good tackler. He does show some ability to rush the passer. The hand use is solid. You do see him kind of stall out a little bit when he is pass rushing. But yeah, I think Tyler Davis, this is a guy who I'm not. It's really early for me to project where he's going to go, but I think this is a guy that there's going to be an NFL team that really likes him and takes him early because I think that to me this is a guy that's going to have a high floor in the NFL. Like I think he's a potential day one starter in the NFL. Maybe he does not have like the upside just because of because he's kind of some traits are kind of he doesn't really have a lot of high end level traits, but I think he's going to be a guy who is impactful. Or is a really solid starter, a guy that you can plug in day one, and you know he's just gonna do his job consistently, and you're gonna get some good play for a long time in the NFL. I think that's Tyler Davis. I think that's why he's chose to return to Clemson because I think that he, you know, even though he's kind of reached mostly his potential, I think that he, to me, guys like this. You know, it seems like a guy who he kind of reminds me of Derek Brown a few years ago. You know, Derek Brown, even though Derek Brown, you can argue, still has some upside in the NFL. To me, a guy like this, like Davis, Brown, they were guys who, you know, coming back and just keep getting better, putting out more and more tape. It seems to really help guys like this. Now, I used to think the opposite because, you know, you would think that, you know, a guy is who he is at this point. But to me, sometimes the more film you can put out there, and even if you are a guy that maybe does not flash like some high-end level ability, I think then scouts will just be like, I just saw consistent, you know, Tyler Davis, you know, 2021, 22, 23, this guy was consistent, strong at the point of attack, quickness off the ball, check. You know, if you can check off all the boxes for scouts and you can show that you can be consistent for a long time, because you keep hearing coaches say consistency, and that's really what Tyler Davis is. This guy has been consistently good for Clemson. So I think with the track record of him being a consistent good player, I think there are going to be some NFL teams that really like Davis's game. I think it'll be a far stretch to me for him to be the number one defensive tackle in this class, especially with Mason Smith, Newton, Chris Jenkins. I think those are my top three guys. But yeah, Tyler Davis certainly is going to be a guy who, you know, maybe goes end of the first round and some NFL team's going to be really happy, and it'll be a guy who sounds like he's a really good guy too. And I think is a guy that if he interviews well with all the tape he's put out and the consistency that he's played with, I think Tyler Davis goes earlier than people think, and I think he'll be a really good player in the NFL. So we'll touch on some more defensive tackles here. Rook Aurora from Clemson, another really good player. I should touch on, you know, him and Davis are versatile. They can play, I think they can play anywhere, the 0 through the 4-eye, 5 technique. Aurora can rush the passer, good against the run. He's a good athlete, may actually be a better athlete than Tyler Davis. But yeah, he's a really good player, and a guy I think that's just going to continue to get better as his career goes on. Could be his last, you know, he is draft eligible. That's why I'm talking about him. So could be his last year at Clemson. So we'll see if he chooses to come out, and we'll see how he performs. Him and Tyler Davis kind of a neck and neck, kind of like in the consensus 4-5 range. So yeah, we'll see about him. Mason Smith right now is my number one defensive tackle, but the big question mark for Mason Smith, how does he perform coming back from injury? The guy we have not seen since 2021. Well, I say 2021. He did play in the opener in 2022, but got hurt against Florida State. So yeah, Mason Smith. But Mason Smith, just his ability to win one-on-one, strong at the point of attack, so good against the run. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's, I mean, it's elite ability to win one-on-one, elite against the run. So even though it's kind of a small sample size, you can really pinpoint some elite traits in Mason Smith's game, and the size and his body too, I would say, is elite. It looks like an NFL body. So, I mean, there's at least 3 or 4 elite traits for Mason Smith. A lot of them are kind of to be determined, but I think that's why I would put Mason Smith as my number 1 defensive tackle, even with the small sample size, just because of all the elite traits this guy really possesses, and he's a really good football player. Thanks for tuning in to the Brant Partial Show. Stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show.